Hi everyone, you are Reddit expose there, enjoy watching.
We met almost comically at a stop sale at the 30th station in Astoria. I came for a bookshelf and left with a desk lamp the color of ripe avocado and the number of Kayla, who sold this lamp. She chuckled, "If it burns out, write to me. I have 3 of them." The lamp is still alive. Kayla was an editing assistant at a post-production studio in Long Island City. Shifts, deadlines, sometimes sleepless nights. I repaired the network and projectors at the Independent Theater on Steinway, cables in the afternoon, rehearsals in the evening, and half-light in the hall on weekends. We both lived in this strange fork of little money, a lot to do, and pretended to be fine. We started with simple roots: a bagel stand at Ditmar Sold, not Sesame, its principal, a farmer's market at Socrates Sculpture Park, a laundry room on Broadway with a TV, where they always show Mets classics. I learned how to get into her windows between shifts, coffee after a night out, a movie at noon, walking to the ferry on 34th Street just to look at the water. There were always sliced mangoes and a box of something spicy in her fridge, and I had endless eggs and sriracha sauce, which was already old, but we believed. The first conflicts were not about us, but about the general rhythm. Her shift from 9 in the evening to 3 broke my get up at 7. And my can tomorrow conflicted with her I need to now. We were looking for compromises in a funny, adult way: earplugs, a sleep mask, short voicemails instead of long essays. Sometimes it worked. In the spring, she was offered a promotion in Los Angeles. Same company, different office, 3 months to try. I said, "Go ahead, of course," as if I were holding a punch. She nodded. "If you come to visit, we'll take a price and go to the ocean." We wrote a list of things to do before. A flashback at IFC, rolls at the counter at Flushing, one night in Hudson Valley at a motel, with an orange-colored carpet. Almost everything is done. The day of departure was to New York. Rain that hesitates to become real. A taxi is caught by a miracle. JFK, Terminal 5, coffee that smells of bitterness and expectation. We discussed the suitcase, watering her monsters on my windowsill, and the schedule of calls. They hugged each other, carefully, like people who don't want to drop anything. She went to passengers only, and I was left with a lamp and a quiet departure lounge. Then the usual distance math began. Facet time in her mornings, my nights, photos of sunsets over Echo Park and my wires, rewriting "How are you?" into "Did you get some sleep?" The first weeks were warm. 2 months later, we were already catching each other in the wrong place, and not then. I sent her a voice message on the subway, a jerky one with "Stand clear of the closing doors, please," and she listened between timekeeping and color correction. I was angry at the missed answers. She was angry at my attempts to solve her fatigue. We honestly tried for another month. Then we called in the evening. She with a plastic cup of cold brew, I with soup from time, and they said the same thing. Let's not be heroic. We parted without much ado. She stayed in long. I turned off the lamp and went to sleep for the first time in silence, which promises nothing, but also does not require. Life after is surprisingly mundane. I rearranged the furniture, took down her Wong Kar-wai retrospective poster from the wall and put it in a tube. I didn't throw it away. I watered the monster on Fridays. I set a reminder in my phone. I started going to therapy in Sunset Park on a sliding scale, once every 2 weeks, to say out loud that I'm not a lifeguard and not every pause is a failure. On Saturdays, I drove groceries to the community fridge on 31st Avenue. The cart creaks, the stray cat at the Great Dane dozes on a roll of paper towels, the neighbor in a bathrobe says "God bless." These little things strengthen the walls better than inspiring speeches. In the fall, we bumped into each other at Trader Joe's in Cobble Hill, New York. Does that? 6 million people, and the right person is standing at the pizza freezer. Kayla with a basket and a new bang, I with a bag of vegetables, because I decided to eat normally. We both stopped at the December 2020 race. "Hi, how are you? How's work?" She said. "You look calmer." I reply, "You too." We hugged briefly, like people who remember that the other person now has their own schedule, and we went on, each in his own row. In the winter, my battery burst, and for the first time in years, I called Supervisor Carlos normally instead of trying to fix it myself. He came, knocked with a key, changed the valve, and said, "Call earlier next time, man." In the evening, I put a "Call me earlier" sticker on the refrigerator. Next to the sticker is the cone bill, which I paid on time, and for some reason, it gave me more confidence than the likes of Annie Post. Once on the subway, I saw her in an advertisement. More precisely, not her, but the credits at the end. The name of the assistant editor of the clip that hung on the screens on the L train. I took a picture, wanted to send it, and then just smiled. I was happy for the person with whom I had a piece of my life, and I didn't need confirmation that I was properly happy. In the spring, she flew in for a week. Work meetings, a wedding for friends. She wrote, "If you want, coffee at Stumptown on the 29th. I wanted to, but not like before. We met at 10 in the morning. The city was already sizzling like a frying pan. We sat down on the steps by the post office. We talked about a simple thing, her new project, my new network at the rehearsal base. How me sometimes doesn't work and you stand like a fool, touching the phone 3 times. She said, "Thank you for not holding it back then." I replied, "Thank you for being honest." We shook hands. Yes, that's right, and went our separate ways. Nothing cinematic, but the air has become lighter. I have an ordinary life now, and the good thing about it is that it's ordinary. I come home, I turn on that green lamp, and it spreads a warm spot on the table. There is a monster on the windowsill, and a Greek diner mug is imprinted on the lacquered pot. On Fridays, I turn off my laptop at 7 sharp and don't act like a hero. On Sundays, I print short stickers for the neighborhood food share. Take one, leave one. Sometimes I meet that same stray cat. Now she has a collar, which means that someone has decided that she is someone else's. Sometimes mutual friends write to me. Kayla changed the studio. We saw her credits at the premiere. I put the heart on and go back to my business. Check if the router is blinking in the theater. Buy American and black and white cookies on the corner at the Egyptian kiosk. Call my mom in Minnesota. Tell her that everything is fine with me. Because normal is the goal. If this story needs a moral, then it's boring and honest. In America, it's easy to believe in a montage of good shots, coffee, platform, sunset. We did it. In fact, something else is more important. How do you say no on time? How do you return the keys without scenes? How do you not write "Where are you?" at 12 in the morning? And how one day you meet at the pizza freezer, nod to each other and move on. Everyone in their own row. Sometimes I think that maybe we'll both have someone else's we. In the meantime, I have an apartment where the doors close quietly, a job where the cables don't get tangled, people with whom I can eat soup in silence, and an avocado-colored lamp I bought at a stop sale that pretends everything is under control. In the evenings, I flip the switch and say to myself in a whisper, without any pathos at all, "I'm here." And that, surprisingly, is enough. A couple of months after that meeting at the freezer, life finally entered its quiet mode. The Steinway Theater lived out the spring with a leaking roof and a turn-up premiere night unloading schedule. And I got into the habit of turning off my laptop at 7 on Fridays, without heroics, and taking a short walk to the community fridge on 31st. In the evenings, the avocado-colored lamp still flooded the table with a regular, warm circle. I put self-adhesive felt patches under it so that it wouldn't slip. A small thing, but for some reason it became calmer. On the refrigerator, next to the "Call Earlier" sticker, I hung a second one. Don't complicate things if you can simplify them. In the summer, the brown blackouts hit. Cohn wrote about the increased load. The air conditioners in the theater gave up amicably. The artistic director waved his hand. "Shall we cancel the afternoon show?" I looked at the schedule of the nearby center for the elderly and suggested something else. Open the lobby as a cooling center. I found 2 healthy fans at the church, took the teas from the neighbors, and printed out the sign: water, sockets, shade, free on the printer. Lena from the nearest bakery brought ice and 10 bottles of lemonade. Said, "You will return the box later. Don't lose it." Fans were quietly rustling in the lobby. Someone was reading AM New York, and one grandmother was knitting and nodding to everyone. In the evening, I caught myself not thinking, what does it look like in a story? I'm just doing it. The theater has a new set of trainees, school children from the district, the summer youth. I wrote them 3 rules on the blackboard in large numbers, with a marker. 1. Sign the wires. 2. Ask before. 3. Check the ground. They giggled about the earth until I showed them how a badly twisted connector sparkles. On the 3rd day, one guy handed me back a screwdriver and muttered, "Sign it." It would seem that the event is small, but inside it is as if the grounding has been set up. Kayla sent me a picture of the credits one morning, with her name flashing at the end of the clit. "It came out," she wrote. I replied with a big and cool, "Without do you remember, without offers to meet. And suddenly I felt that this was not about coldness, but about a normal distance. In August, I went to visit my mom in Minnesota for 3 days. DMSP was greeted with carpets, with fir branches and an eternal queue at Caribou Coffee. I changed the light bulb on the sensor on my mom's porch. I put a warm one, as I love it, and lubricated the hinges so that the door wouldn't slam. We weeded the strawberries in silence, then fried the corn and chatted about the neighbors. She asked, "You're not alone there?" I said, "No. But also not just the two of us for show." I feel good. And for the first time, I realized that I wasn't saying this to calm down. I came back, and in our theater, after a downpour, it was flowing from the balcony directly into the hall. The old me would have grabbed a stepladder and climbed up to the ceiling by myself. The new me took a picture of the spot, wrote to Carlos Super, called the insurer, put 3 buckets and hung a sign slippery careful. Carlos came in an hour later with a guy. They took off the stove, found a guilty piece of drain. "Early is better, man," Carlos said. I showed him my "Call Me Earlier" sticker, and he chuckled. The neighbor across the wall, Sarah, a freelance illustrator, asked me to look at the router one evening. It's blinking like a disco. I rearranged the channel, changed the power supply, and it worked. She brought a black and white Greek cookie and put it in her hand. For the rescue, we stayed on the stairs, chatting about nonsense, about how Omni sometimes doesn't read, and how someone in our hallway puts up notes saying please close quietly. The next day, a letter came to the general mail at home. "Thank you to the one who fixed the internet on 3B. You're a hero, but don't be a hero, write earlier." I chuckled. The slogan has a life of its own. In the fall, we were given a small grant for social weekends, film screenings with subtitles and silent hours for those who are loud. I shifted the volume limit in the remote control and hung soft closers over the swing doors. He drew a poster silent hour, no trailers at 120 dB, no strobes, no sudden pops. 2 families with autistic children came and sat down closer to the aisle. After the session, Mom said, "This is the first time you haven't explained anything. You've just done it." It was the best review of the year. In winter, the therapist suggested once a month instead of twice. It looks like you're catching the moments yourself. I wasn't being a hero. If he starts knocking out, I'll write earlier. Agreed. Around the same time, Nia appeared. Not a girl, but a person who began to appear regularly in my everyday life. She rented a room on the floor below, worked for an immigration NGO in downtown. We crossed paths at the community fridge. We brought packages at the same time, rested on the carts. "Are you Friday night?" she asked. "Yes, Friday. Water and eggs," I reply, showing my list. Since then, Friday's water and eggs have become common. Sometimes together, sometimes each by himself. No bids. I started hosting a small Sunday fundamentals of light and sound for our interns and Aura about safe plugs, labeling, and how not to burn a mixer. I printed them cards with rules, sign ask check. One girl said, after class, "Thank you for not pretending that we should know anyway." I swallow and went to check the cables. Sometimes actions are more useful. Nya and I kept to the level of appetites match. "Let's go get some soup." She once asked, "When was the last time you were a spectator in a real movie?" I thought about it. We bought tickets to the Kaufman Astoria for a late show. It was 20 minutes before the start, and I found myself not bothering to check the twisted knobs of the equalizer, but just sitting and munching popcorn. Then she said, "It's okay that the movie is just a movie." "It's fine," I agreed, and memorized the wording. Kayla sometimes sent life updates. Moving to another studio, a new dog from the neighbors, 5 seconds of ocean video. I answered briefly and to the point. On New Year's Eve, it came. "I'll be in the city for 2 days. If you want, coffee in Madison Square. In the afternoon." I looked at the schedule, at myself in the mirror, at the green lamp, Pan wrote, "Come on. I have a window at 2. We've met. No drama." She told me about the work, and I told her about the quiet hour and our cooling center. We laughed about Omni. At parting, she said, "You've become simpler." "I try," I reply. We hugged in a human way, without reading the signals of what does it mean. And they broke up. I caught the Q train, and in its stand clear. I heard not goodbye, but okay, let's go on. During this time, the apartment has added small endings. A bolted door closer on the front door, now it doesn't slam. A nightlight sensor in the hallway. I don't stumble at night. A hook at the entrance for a reusable bed. I don't forget. I began writing short columns for the district flyer. Practical warmth. We're in the district to get free co-op, ink cartridges. How to ask neighbors for a drill so as not to end in awkwardness. What to do if there is a leak in the entrance. Steps and phones. People brought cookies to the theater for the instructions. I would put a stack on the table, sign take it, and it would go away quickly. Nya brought a box of light bulbs one evening. It's blinking in our hallway. Can you help me? We went around the floors, changed the cold to soft, checked the sensors. On the last flight, she suddenly said, "Sometimes you say we, about the house, about the theater. It feels good." I nodded. I'm careful with we, but yes. The house and the theater are we. We smiled equally tiredly. One day, in a heavy downpour, the door of the community fridge blew off. I had already taken out the screeds when a guy from Omega appeared around the corner with a roll of tape and shouted, "Hold it." 5 minutes later, the door was in place. I left a note. If anything, call me earlier. The next morning, someone chopped it up, and don't be a hero alone. I left it like that. In the spring, the theater received a tiny grant to upgrade the console and a couple of closers. I wrote the estimate without any tricks, and it was approved. I installed a new remote control and gave the old one to the neighboring school stage. The headmaster wrote me a thank you with 3 emoticons. I printed it out and attached it to the request thanks done board, which I hung up for the team. Now our little victories are hanging there. Funny, but it works. My days are simple now. In the morning, coffee from Turkey and a quiet cave on the windowsill. On Fridays, water and eggs on the 31st. On Saturdays the interns are sign-ass check. Once a month, a therapist with her "How do you notice enough?" I smile and answer. When the doors close softly, the lamp lights up at the first click and no one acts as a hero alone. Sometimes I think about the new us. Maybe, but I don't want to rush it. I like that there are people with whom you can silently eat soup and not explain why soup is a plan. That Carlos comes when you call earlier. What Nya writes, I take the eggs. That Kayla is doing well, and I don't have to be there for that. In the evening, I flick the green lamp. It gently comes to life. There's a sticker on the table that I printed for myself. Continuing is also an action. I turn the phone screen down, listen to the house breathe smoothly, and, as always, without pathos, I tell myself softly, I'm here. And it's not just enough. This is the base on which to build further, one step at a time. In the spring, we were finally checked by an inspector from the Department of Buildings. He arrived without warning. A piece of paper daub on his chest, a tablet in his hands. The old me would have started making excuses and squirming. The new me said, here's the inspection log, here's the evacuation plan, here's the estimate for closers and a new remote control. Here's who they gave the old one to. The inspector stood under the emergency light and waved. Stairwells are okay. File the threshold at the back exit. They stumble. I wrote it down. A day later, Carlos and I removed the threshold, removed the chamfer, and I put up a sign saying watch your step. A small minus turned into a plus. Nya started her own spring jam at work. Buses with people at Port Authority. Temporary apartments. Paper. 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 She came in the evening smelling of Subway and disinfectant and sat on the floor, leaning against the sofa. Everyone took off their shoes and socks today. 4 of them have blisters. One woman has fingers like from a textbook. I heated soup, put water on for tea and listened. He didn't offer to fix anything except water, warm socks, write earlier if you need a car. Once a week, I took to their warehouse what they asked for. Thermoses, cords, chargers, a couple of new mats from TJ Maxx. I hung another note on the door of the community fridge next to our Don't Be a Hero Alone. If you need thermocups and hats, leave them in the box on the right. The box was not empty. We have made Silent Saturday permanent in the theater. A girl from a nearby school came with a translator and said that her brother would like to watch a movie with subtitles in Spanish. I rummaged through the license, found the track, brought it to the screen. The eyes of the beau's mother sparkled the way the directors shine at our premieres. I wrote it down in my notebook. If I didn't explain, I did. Kayla and I didn't get lost at all. Short live texts arrived a couple of times a month. I moved to Bushwick. It sounds like a tinkin from the street. The artist has a new single. I'm in the credits. I answered just as briefly, without large brackets. One day she sent a photo. The inscription in marker pen on the white wall of the studio Call earlier. Your meme has reached us, she wrote. I smiled and sent her a picture with our door and the added chalk and "Don't be a hero alone" with Nya. We stayed in the safe She left a brush and a hat with me. I bought a second plate of normal size and another hook at the entrance. Once every 2 weeks, we had 1.5-minute repairs. Unscrew the window handle, lubricate the hinge, replace the batteries in the sensor. It's better than any serious conversations. It's very down to earth. In May, I was asked to speak at a meeting of the district council. How did you do the cooling center and the silent screening? I went out without reading and told them in paragraphs. Announcements, short and to the point. Doors, softly, volume, limit, water, always. The man from the fire department nodded. If only it were like that. After the meeting, a woman from another venue came up to me and said, "Can I steal your posters?" "Don't steal," I reply. "I'll send you the naked version, and you can enter your own." It turned out to be the best way, without authorship, to make it work. In the summer, Nya and I went to Rockaway on a train. She fell asleep on my shoulder between Broadway and Beach 67, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't protect the moment, didn't make a postcard out of it. On the beach, the wind blew the sand away, seagulls cursed, surfers fell, rising with a smile. We were sitting on a blanket, eating stupid salty chips, and in the end we caught a short downpour, the one that washes away all the excess. We drove back wet, happy, and silent, the right kind of fatigue. More and more often they began to call me for advice. First to school, then to the library. I brought the same framework everywhere. Sign ask check for things and don't be a hero alone for people. Sometimes it seemed ridiculously simple, almost banal. But then someone stuck a neat piece of paper on the garbage chute in the entrance. "We're tying the bags. Call earlier if you get stuck." And I was thinking again. The commonplace is something that works every day. In the fall, the batteries rattled at home. The same metallic rhythm by which you measure the season in New York. The management company was slow to turn on the heat. A nervous carousel began in the chat. I filled out the Google form. Temperature in the apartment by room. Attached memo 311. Collected readings for the day. Sent a summary to the manager, and at 311, they gave me heat a day later. In the chat, someone wrote, "Thank you, organizer." I corrected him. Just a man with a summary plate. Divided up for everyone. Kayla was around again in the fall, leading the sound at an event at the museum in Long Island City. "If you want to come to the sound check, we have strange acoustics," she wrote. I went in. White walls, glass, reverberation, like in a bathroom. For 15 minutes we searched for a frequency together, found a soft compromise, and smiled in the same technical way. At parting, she said, "It's good that now we can do things together and not bring the movies back." I nodded. "Well, you can just do it." In winter, Nya and I came up with a tool exchange box in our entrance. Gloves, screwdriver, keys, tape measure, duct tape, screeds, light bulbs. I screwed it on the ground floor under the bulletin board. Wrote a simple rule. If you take it, give it back. At the bottom, he added in a small voice, "If you broke it, tell me earlier." The box began to empty and replenish at a fast, healthy rate. One stormy night, someone left a new door seal there and a note, "For 3B a draft." I took it away, glued it on. A day later, Sarah brought cookies, black and white again. The psychologist asked at the end of the year, "You say enough a little more often. Why did you notice?" I grinned at him. Because he stopped being the only one in any room. If you gave the old remote control to the school and didn't attach the how to use list, that's enough. If you didn't climb the ladder yourself, but called Carlos, that's enough. If you answered Kayla with cool and didn't finish 3 more paragraphs, that's enough. She nodded. Write it down at home. In a prominent place. I wrote it down on a sticker and stuck it to the green lamp. At Christmas, we hung a new small sign above the entrance to the theater. Open. It's open. But below it is water, outlets, quiet, here. On the very first day, a courier came into the lobby, whose phone was dead, and a schoolboy who doesn't catch Omni, but needs to go home. They both sat for 5 minutes and left with a "Thank you." "It's working," Carlos said. "It's working," I replied. Nya and I returned home one evening and found a note in a child's handwriting on our toolbox. "We fixed the lamp in the 3rd entrance. Thank you." I smiled so that my ears felt warm. And for the first time in my life I thought, this is what we are when things go in circles and come back better. And then, again about the little things. I finally bought a bucket of normal volume, rather than having to worrying about the bucket with every leak. I set the timer on the bathroom hood. Nya brought a box of thin wool gloves from the office for fridges people and they were gone in 2 days. I printed the message drink water on plain paper in 3 languages and taped it on. Yes, it looks poor, but it's readable without QR. Sometimes people ask me if it's boring, without big turns. Honestly, no. My turns are now in the right places, at the back exit without a threshold, at the door with a door closer, at the batteries without knocking, at the quiet R sign. And yet, in my head, where call before is no longer a slogan, but a muscle habit. I think about Kayla calmly, as a person with whom we have common frequencies, but different playlists. About Miu, as about a person with whom you can silently choose a light bulb, and it will be more intimate than going on a weekend because you have to. About myself, it's like a guy who learned to call Carlos in time, and not be a hero alone. I'm writing this now with a green lamp. On the table is a crooked printed sheet of silent screening schedule and a box of black and white from Sarah, half empty. Someone is laughing behind the wall. Pulling dill soup out the window, someone is asking in the chat at home, who has a drill for the evening. I put a plus sign, because I know where it is. I flick the lamp and it lights up the first time, and, as always, I quietly tell myself the same thing, I'm here. That's enough to keep going. And the rest is point by point. Sign, ask, check, and don't be a hero alone. The finale didn't happen in the cinema or on the bridge, but on a very ordinary weekday evening, which you can't even put on the calendar. The silent screening was coming to an end in the theater. The last 2 were finishing their water at the outlets. The boy from the next house returned the screwdriver and screeds to the box. Carlos nodded from under the stairs. Tomorrow I'll go through the sensors. I clicked the door closer on the front door. Soft, as we like it, pasted a fresh piece of paper, thank you for calling earlier, and turned off the big light. The little one, on duty, has been left. It is now for those who wander in for a minute to recharge. Working without us is the best sign. At home, Nya was busy at the table with new hooks. It smelled of soup and wet gloves. She brought back a whole box of them for fridge. There was a key with a green tack on the front shelf. I raised an eyebrow. Spare, she said simply. For call earlier. Not romance, but a system. The system is romantic, I reply, hanging the key next to mine and feeling the room's breathing steady. We ate soup straight from the bowls, silently wandered through the little things. She added 2,700,000 light bulbs to the list. I pressed the inset on the sink and pasted a small marker in the dashboard where the plugs are. If anything, water, light, Carlos, no fanfare. It's just a house that increasingly turns on at the first click. The phone beeped. Kayla sent a photo of an empty studio, cable coils on the floor, someone else's call earlier in black marker on the wall. I'm going on tour for a month. I keep the frequencies, she wrote. I typed in I'm proud. Take care of your ears. Then erased it and sent keep the frequencies. He put the phone face down and opened the desk drawer. There were old business cards, don't be a hero alone stickers, and several other people's thanks. I didn't put it out, I just closed the drawer. An archive is also a way to love without making too much noise. A downpour began at night, not a thunderstorm, but one that wipes January off the asphalt. Nya and I went out onto the stairs to watch the entrance light fall on the wet concrete. The door closer was whispering as he put the squeeze on the door. Somewhere below, someone's slippers clicked, and a boy's voice said, "It's not scary now." Nya grinned. "Your genre is working. Practical warmth." I shrugged my shoulders. Ours. The next day, on my way to the market, I turned into the laundry on Armitage. There were neat cards in a transparent pocket above the changing machine. Take it if you don't have enough. Return it when you can. Thank you for not being a hero alone. Next to it is a roll of quarters with a blue elastic band. Obviously not mine. People threw their own. I stood there, smiled, and walked on. The best ending for any venture is when it lives peacefully without an author. I bought sour and sweet apples at the market, a filter from the guy with the trailer, took 2 extra light bulbs in case, and also a funny door closer for the mailroom. Sarah from 3B complained about the clapping. I'll screw it up when I get it. The old me would have made an action out of it. The current one will just take a drill. In the evening, we placed on the shelf by the door what makes a house a home: keys, gloves, a felt tip pen for notes, a small tape measure, 2 rubber bands from rolls of quarters. Nya ran her finger over the new sign that we had finally put up in our hallway. There were 3 lines, our internal rules. Sign it, asp, check, call me earlier, don't be a hero alone. I added another one. Finally, on the inside of the green lampshade, where it is visible only to those who sit under the lamp, enough is enough, so we can continue. We turned off everything, left the night light in the hallway for those who are later, and went to bed. Outside, the rain was gently marching on the windowsill. In a chat at home, someone asked for a drill for the evening. I put a plus sign without even getting up. I know where it is. Kayla's phone was silent, and rightly so. The theater flashed on duty. Downstairs, Fridge hummed as he accepted new gloves. Someone left fresh electrical tape in the toolbox and a note. It came in handy. Thank you. I found myself no longer waiting for the big turn. Everything you need is in place. At the door without a bang. At the back exit without a threshold. At the batteries without knocking. At people with water and warm socks. Nya and I have found a rhythm in which we are not vows, but joint instructions, not performances, but closers and keys with tags. I clicked on the green lamp the first time and out loud, almost automatically, I told myself something that once taught me not to be afraid of the dot. I'm here. And that's enough to finish this story. And calmly continue on. Tomorrow there will be a market, to light bulbs, a drill for a neighbor, a quiet demonstration at 6, soup with dill and, possibly, a letter to the school about the censor at the entrance, point by point. Without heroism, with water, light, and people nearby.